Rare's seminal 1994 classic, Donkey Kong Country, is deeply revered within the gaming community for pioneering pre-rendered 3D graphics and also for reviving the Donkey Kong character after about a decade of obscurity. What's interesting though is that Donkey Kong Country barely keeps any connection to those old Donkey Kong games, only being mentioned in passing by a stand-in for snobbish older gamers portrayed as blinded by nostalgia. It's a complete reboot of Donkey Kong as we understand him. With this comes many things. There's a redesign of Donkey Kong looking more confident and cool rather than oafish and brutish, and there's an entire family of his that we get to meet. His aforementioned older gamer grandfather Cranky Kong, who dispenses snarky advice, his nephew Diddy Kong, who tags along as the second player on the adventure, his girlfriend Candy Kong, who acts as a form of save point, and his cousin Funky Kong, who warps players along the map. While not particularly compelling characters, mainly defined by their functions to the player, it's really telling that they bothered creating so many of them. It's not just an expansion of Donkey Kong's family tree though, we get to see his entire homeland where his family hails from, the aptly named Kong Island. Kong Island is more than just the people who inhabit it, it's so much more. Most of the game isn't composed of interactions with them and is instead taking in the beautiful scenery. A lot of this has to do with the graphical innovations that the pre-rendered Silicon graphics models brought to the table and a desire to show that off, but there's also just so much artistic focus on the ambiance. I mean, just listen to David Wise's soundtrack that lingers in your mind. Kong Island is a place of sights and sounds, one where you're meant to feel the air and atmosphere thick on your shoulders and experience all of its natural beauty. The world of Donkey Kong Country is one of lush jungles and aquamarine blue waters. It's a total delight. So as you delve further into Kong Island over the course of the game and take it all in, you'll start to notice the relaxing atmosphere get replaced with something far more sinister and industrial. There is one aspect of this setting that I've neglected to mention so far, the crocodilian Kremlings. They're an invading force of industry and colonialism, taking the island by force and terraforming it to their desires, stealing food in order to satiate the never-ending machine of capital. I mean, Donkey Kong himself even had his bananas stolen from them, which is what prompted this quest in the first place. Since the game is so largely concerned with your focus being on the atmosphere, you'll notice this intense shift. Water levels become poisonous refuse and runoff from labs. Factories full of oil barrels reminiscent of the character's original outing, and mechanical abominations plague the last world. King K. Rool, the leader of the Kremlings, himself has the trappings of a colonist. While he's often likened to a pirate, and it's easy to see why since that's how he appears in this game's sequel, he's adorned as a king. Remember that these types of galleons, which his boss theme was named for, were not only the ships of pirates but of most naval forces at the time. Even his choice of weapon, the blunderbuss, brings to mind an imperialist explorer of some kind, with a pith helmet maybe. King K. Rool is a colonizer, but despite his antiquated attire and methods on a personal level, his crew is very much the modern equivalent of a colonial power. While their leader dresses as a decadent 16th century monarch, the main breadth of the Kremlings dress as modern military men. Their attire is just as infantry in the United States have been dressing for over half a century now, with the same kind of bull helmets with straps worn by Clump, one of K. Rool's commanders. The monarchist ambitions of King K. Rool are backed by technology from the modern era, which is an interesting illustration of the similarities between monarchism and capitalism. They are both hierarchical systems dated by bloodline. One is just transparently dynastic and the other isn't. King K. Rool uses the tools of a capitalist in order to crush the people of a small nation in order to reap the potential resources, all in the guise of a monarch who might have done the same thing only a few hundred years before our time. In the 1990s, Operation Desert Storm, also known as the Gulf War, had just begun, starting direct military involvement from the United States in the Middle East. This was really the start of their involvement in the Middle East, which has had a continuous effect on the world at large. While the Gulf War may have ended in 1991, its ripples have continued. Forever wars fought in the Middle East to wrest control over the valuable oil deposits there, one of the United States' top priorities now. It's hard not to think then that the imperialist actors of the Donkey Kong Country universe who dress like soldiers act as parallels to the United States' own military forces. They're both cold-blooded empires trying to destabilize nations in the interest of gathering resources for themselves. Throughout the manuals and tertiary materials of the Donkey Kong Country series, series, we hear of a Great Ape War that happened prior to the events in the text. We don't truly know what happened in it, but it's safe to say from the fact that the Kremlings always return that it, much like the imperialist actions of all countries, is doomed to only have one outcome: more war. Until the entirety of Kong Island is completely destroyed, there will be no rest for its denizens. Only a constant struggle against the forces of Empire who seek to destroy it. It's no wonder that as the games went on, Donkey Kong Country completely dropped this angle. Later games in the series offer less grounded and interesting takes on the conflict between the Kremlings and the Kongs. The second game envisioned them as fantasy pirates, the third as mad scientists, and after a cavalcade of spin-offs, the Kremlings completely disappeared from the picture. The villains of the fourth game are also native to the island, a tribe who lived there before the Kongs did, and though the fifth game also features a conquering force that is much more whimsical and magical in its nature, being a group of Vikings who can make blizzards with ice magic. I'm not going to argue that the original Donkey Kong Country was some staunch, groundbreaking work that was so potent it had to be silenced by Nintendo, but I will say that the increasing fantasy of the setting totally uninterests me. What drew me to that original title was how grounded its conflict was compared to many other platformers. The Kremlings are an imperialist armada, one set to ravage the resources of every land they can get to or destroy themselves trying. They show no interest in the resources they steal, judging from how they leave bananas piled up everywhere instead of eating any of them, and they're eerily dressed in the garb of historical colonizers, from Ferdinand II to George H.W. Bush. There will never truly be peace on Kong Island, only an inescapable eternal conflict justified by propaganda. This has been Arcade Everlasting, who thinks this game looks way too good with a CRT filter, signing off. Thank you for watching.